and welcome to Business Line. Greece and its government are having a tough week. The country's negotiations with its creditors started on Monday, a day before Athens had to repay money to the International Monetary Fund. On his arrival in Brussels, Varoufakis told Euronews' Efi Koutsokosta, Greece always meets its obligations, and that was the case. Athens did pay. But did it have any impact on the Greek talks in Brussels aimed at unblocking the international aid? We'll ask our very own Brussels correspondent, Efi.
It's clear that what would make the creditors to release the last 7.2 billion euros of the bailout program is the adoption and implementation of a full reform program. And as the head of the Eurogroup said, the disbursement would follow the implementation. Partial disbursements for partial implementation. On the other hand, after the Eurogroup, it was also confirmed that the ECB won't help Athens to ease its funding crunch just because of a positive signal of progress, as the Greek government was hoping. It just decided on Tuesday to increase the funding towards Greek banks through the emergency liquidity assistance mechanism as usual.
Efi, in the past, Varoufakis used to say the sides have made significant progress. This time we had completely different comments. He warned his country's financial situation was terribly urgent. What can you read into this change of tone?
What we could say for sure is that the liquidity situation in Greece right now is dramatic. The Greek government paid the IMF partly through an IMF holding account in the Greek Central Bank, and it has to return this money in a few weeks. And next month, Greece has to pay over 1 billion euros only to the IMF. That's why Varoufakis, the Greek finance minister, stressed that a solution has to be found urgently in a couple of weeks.
That was Euronews' Brussels correspondent Efi Koutsokosta. Efi, thank you very much indeed. The talks in Brussels have been closely watched in Greece. The country's prime minister echoed Varoufakis, saying Greece is running out of cash. We're joined by Simela Tuhtidi, our business correspondent in Athens. Simela, how bad is the situation?
I could paint quite a vivid picture by describing how the Greek government managed to pay its last debt obligation of 750 million euros to the IMF. A few days before the deadline, we just did not have the money. Bank of Greece suggested the use of an IMF holding account that is only tapped in emergencies. They withdrew almost all its money, but that was still not enough, so they had to use an extra 100 million euros from public organizations' capital reserves. The next payment to the IMF comes in early June. By that time, the Greek government needs a deal with the lenders. That is why there are continuous meetings in Athens to outline the measures such a deal could include.
That was Simela Tuhtidi, our business correspondent in Athens. Thank you.
Thank you.
To see what's been happening these days in Greece, Simela asked some people what they think of the government's strategy. Take a look.
Greece is examining a cash for reform deal to pay its creditors as it's predicted to run out of money within weeks. An emergency IMF holding account has reportedly been emptied to repay 750 million euros due to the international lender, highlighting the dire state of the country's finances. One economist told Euronews the government has to calm fears of another default. As far as wages and pensions are concerned, there's no problem, as they're covered from current state revenues. The Greek state has not stopped functioning, so on that front we're fully covered. But obligations to creditors aren't the same. We only have enough money to make the next repayments. On Monday, Greece's finance minister described the situation as terribly urgent and said a deal to release further funds was needed by the end of the month. Our Greek correspondent says although the government may reach agreements with its creditors, it will still have to fight a fresh battle. Any new measures must have the coalition government and parliament's approval, and getting this won't be easy. We'd prefer the government keeps the red lines, even if there is a rupture, says this man. I believe keeping the red lines will be better than any other agreement.
Οι κόκκινες γραμμές θα είναι καλύτερο από οποιαδήποτε άλλη συμφωνία.
But this woman believes the rupture or break with creditors should have come earlier. Now it's too late, she says. A cash reform deal appears the most likely solution, but Greece's difficult negotiations with its creditors suggest there's limited scope to change its economic policy.
Η if Greece's government may now lose support from its voters, the UK's Conservatives have just got more backing than expected. Britain's Finance Minister George Osborne said in Brussels his party will now aim to reform the EU. Euronews' Sarah Chappell found out what does Britain's economy need itself.
In London, share prices soared as a new Conservative government emerged victorious from last week's election. The prospect of immediate stability saw traders breathe a sigh of relief, but some experts believe Britain's economic revival remains on shaky ground.
At the moment, we have an economy driven by consumer expenditure, based very much on credit card lending, people confident that they can spend a little bit more. I am not confident that in the long run we can sustain these levels of growth, because they're based very much on a kind of, party-ish economy where we're spending a lot of money and running down savings.
The Bank of England has kept interest rates at a record low of 0.5% for 6 years, but should that change, Irwin sees trouble.
If interest rates start to go up at the point when we're still the economy's basically growing because people are spending a lot of money based on credit card debt and housing equity and so on and so forth, it will be disastrous.
It comes as new figures show continued improvement in the jobs outlook, particularly in manufacturing. Combined with a steady recovery in oil prices, there's more chance the UK may avoid deflation. But the threat cannot be ruled out altogether.
The end of Windows. Microsoft's announcement sounded dramatic and very scary for those who've been always waiting for a new version to come. Does it really mean Windows 10 will be the very last one? This is it. This is IT.
I never thought I'd see the day Microsoft announces the end of Windows as we know it. It happened during the company's Ignite conference when a spokesman said Windows 10 will be the last version of Windows. Now, what does this mean exactly? It means the improvement cycle will change dramatically. No more physical support and burdensome updates, no more flashy advertising campaigns to launch the latest incarnation, and notably, no more version names like 7 or Vista. Instead of introducing new major versions, Microsoft will improve Windows with regular installments and automatic patches, just like an app. Now, from a technical standpoint, it's not exactly a revolution. Other companies have been doing it for a while now. But for Redmond, it's the end of an era. New CEO Satya Nadella is driving the transition to selling software as a service, and Windows 10 will become part of the picture. The operating system could arrive as soon as the end of July, according to the CEO of AMD, which let the date slip during a conference call. It will be available as a free update and feature, among other things, a brand new browser called Edge and the return of the Start menu. That was it. That was IT.
And that was it for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next week.